My name is Tom Curdy, a commander of the post. With us today is the chairman of the New York State Committee on Veterans, Homeland Security, and Military Affairs, Senator Brooks. Also today we have Senator Martinez, Senator Gaughran, Senator Kaplan, Senator Thomas, Senator Kaminsky, and Assemblywoman Griffin. Today, a bill will be presented that will benefit the Gold Star mothers. As everyone in this room knows, the Gold Star mothers are the ones whose sons and daughters have made the supreme sacrifice for our country. There's distinction that no mother wants, but one that they wear proudly. At this time, I'd like everyone to stand. We'll start the ceremony with a pledge. Attention and salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Two. I'd like to bring up our post chaplain for an opening prayer.
Thank you, Welcome, everyone. We're delighted to have you here. O sovereign ruler, uncover, please. O sovereign ruler of the universe, who art the Lord of hosts and God of peace, without thee our efforts are in vain. Continue thy blessings upon our family, we pray thee, and guide us during our deliberations. We beseech thee, O God, to bless the dependents of our departed comrades, and to comfort all who gave their loved ones to our nation's cause. Bless and strengthen the sick and the needy and the afflicted. Bless the widows and children of our national home, and help us fulfill our duties towards them. Continue thy favor upon our order, and help us to practice the spirit of true comradeship, both in our councils and the world at large. Enable us to better the communities which we live through our devotion to duty as citizens. We now have a moment of silent prayer for our departed comrades, those missing in action and held prisoner of war. These and all other necessary blessings, we ask thee, mighty ruler of the universe. Amen. Amen. Papa? Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to bring up our friend, the Honorable Senator Brooks.
Thank you, Commander, and good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Type squeeze here. Today, I'm joined with members of the Long Island Delegation, and both in the state and the Assembly, to introduce support for a bill we introduced this past week, Senate Bill 5187. It is an act to amend the education law in relation to providing scholarships for surviving dependent family members of New York State military personnel who have died while performing military duties. The purpose of this bill is to provide college tuition to dependents of New York State military personnel who have performed their duties and made the ultimate sacrifice. The bill's section 668E of the education law provides that dependents of New York State military personnel who die in the performance of their duties are to be provided college tuition. Clearly, we all understand that those who serve in the military across this state and across this nation do so at great peril. Whether those individuals are in the federal branches of the service or the state militia, they serve at risk. Recently, there's been a lot of discussion about action that took place in the Senate concerning a bill that was being introduced and some problems they had with the bill, and a report that the Democrats in the Assembly were not funding Golden family in terms of the tuition. That's not the case, number one. This particular bill expands the benefits to all military personnel, whether they died in the line of combat or they died performing their military duties. There were a number of technical errors in that bill which have been corrected. The bill was introduced on Friday. We had a problem with some definitions. We cleared them out, and we had some problems with the funding. We've adjusted the bill to be effective April 20th of next year, which is when the new budget will be put in place, and that takes care of the funding issues. But we're in a situation today where we are introducing this legislation in the Senate, and the bill in the Assembly will be revised to ensure that anyone who is in the military that resides in the state of New York, if in performing their military duties they die or become permanently severely paralyzed and disabled, will be entitled for their survivors to college tuition. That is going to include their spouse, their children, and anyone else who they are financially dependent towards. It is shameful, to be honest, of the discussions that have gone on in the last few days about the confusion with this bill. Never, ever, ever were the Gold families at risk of losing that support. This bill expands the coverage to cover every single member who is serving in the military. We have it introduced. We're gonna bring it forward the next meeting in the Senate Veterans Committee, and then it'll go over to the Educational Committee for final passage. I think it's a shame. It really is a shame that an issue this important was used for pure politics in the last couple of weeks. We have got to get the politics out of what's going on in Albany and what's going on in Washington and serve the people of this state. There's just too much of it. There was misinformation on this issue throughout the whole discussion. We have people in this state who are serving this country at risk. They don't have to be in a situation where there's a suggestion that the state is not going to stand behind those families. That's why we're expanding this program. I'm sorry we have to have this press conference. The Assembly co-sponsor was trying to get here, can't. They will submit the revised wording into their House, and I'm sure we'll bring that forward. All of us here from Long Island absolutely stand with our military families. There never was a question of that. There was some technicalities on the bill and some questions on the funding. Never the intent of what we were supposed to do. We stand here united in supporting all of our military in this state, and in the worst case scenario, providing tuition services to their survivors. So let's put an end to this discussion. Let's put an end to even the hint that in our state we were not going to fill the commitments we've made to those who serve. This time I'd like to introduce Senator Kaminsky for a few words.
Thank you so much, Chairman Brooks. Everything that we hold dear as a country is given to us thanks to the sacrifice of the men and women who put on a uniform. And unfortunately, so often the case, thanks to the sacrifice of what President Lincoln called those who gave the last full measure of their devotion on our behalf. We must do everything we can to appreciate that, to recognize that sacrifice, but recognizing and appreciating are not enough. And sometimes we have to use the state resources to live up to the commitment that we've all made to the families, especially the Gold Star families, who've given so much. I'm proud to support Senator Brooks and stand here with my Long Island colleagues in support of our military families. We will always be there for them. We now have about 6 weeks left in session when we return, and we are committed to getting this done. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Brooks. Our nation and our state owe a significant debt of gratitude to those who make the ultimate sacrifice in the service of our nation, protecting our dearly held freedoms. We as a community and as an state should do everything we can to support the families that they have left behind, to help them get through their unimaginable loss and to mitigate the hardship they must endure going forward. Extending the opportunity for children and spouses of fallen heroes to attend college without financial burden is a very small gesture of thanks on behalf of a grateful community and a grateful state that we all can support. I thank Senator Brooks for putting forth this legislation, and I'm proud to stand with my Long Island colleagues to support this bill, and thank all of you who have assembled here. And thank you for your service to our great nation. Thank you.
Good morning. First of all, I want to thank the Post for allowing us to be here today in your home. And it's great to be here on Long Island, back again from Albany. But honestly, as a proud aunt of a serviceman, he is in the Air Force. I can tell you that every single day we have him in our prayers and in our thoughts, because what we want is for him to come home safe. So from my family to all of yours, this is something that's very important to me, to our Long Island delegation, to the state of New York. I thank Senator Brooks for his commitment in this. As a member of the committee, I am looking forward to voting in the affirmative to get this out of committee and having a full floor vote. But I'm also hoping to work with other colleagues in our state legislature to make sure that this does move forward. We owe it to our veterans who have not only fought for us, they have defended our rights, our freedoms that we as Americans today hold, freedoms that other people across the world do not have the ability to do so. And we need to continue fighting for you. You have fought for us, not just here at home, but abroad. And it is our responsibility to protect you upon coming home, to protect our families upon coming home. And please know that you have the full commitment of this Long Island delegation to do just that. Thank you.
First of all, I want to thank Senator Brooks for his leadership on this important legislation, and I want to thank all the members who serve so proudly in the military who are standing around us today. The fact that we get to stand here as members of the state Senate and participate in important legislation like this is because of the sacrifices that you made, and we can never forget that. And unfortunately, there are others who made the same sacrifice but made the ultimate sacrifice who are not here today. And we have an obligation to their families, these Gold Star families, that their children, their spouses can go to college. And yes, it will be paid for by the state of New York. And you know what? I would say there probably isn't a taxpayer in this state who would not say that that's where I want my tax dollars going. So I stand with the veterans here. We thank you for what you've done, and let's get to Albany and let's just get this done, and I'm sure we will be able to do that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Senator Brooks, for leading the way with this bill. I am also on the Veterans Committee, and I will also be voting in the affirmative to get this through the committee onto the floor. Our Gold Star families have made a sacrifice that most of us cannot even begin to imagine. In District 6, I have many Gold Star families, and there are no words I can say to express my gratitude to those who have lost a loved one during service to our country. They have gone through something so unimaginable, and we have to do everything we can to help the young widow wanting to go back to school or a child of a fallen soldier getting ready to start school. This bill will provide that the dependents of the New York State military personnel who die in the performance of their duties are provided with college tuition. This bill will go a long way to help these families, and I am a proud co-sponsor of this bill. We will do everything we can to protect our veterans and the families of the fallen because we owe them a debt. Thank you.
I'm Dave Rogers, representing the Suffolk County Council, the VFW. This is important legislation to us because, you hear it all the time, no one does more for veterans. But the VFW doesn't stop there. We also take care of their families. And so bills that help support the families of those, especially those who have fallen, is dear to our heart. We want to make sure that those families are taken care of, that they shouldn't have additional burden because the spouse has died and because they're no longer there. So we want to see this continue. I'm hoping that this will grow, not just in New York, that other states will pick this up, and that ultimately the GI Bill will be something that if a military member passes away, it automatically transfers over to a family member, and because they're not there, they don't have to go through a lot of red tape to get the paperwork done to take care of their families. So I thank Senator Brooks and all the senators here and all those in the New York State legislation that are pushing for these kind of bills to make sure that not only our veterans, but their families are well taken care of. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you for having us here today. Thank you to the VFW for hosting, and thank you to Senator Brooks for calling this press conference. I am Judy Griffin, and I'm a member of the Assembly, and I'm on the Higher Ed Committee, so I was proud to advance this bill on Tuesday when it came to a vote, and I will be a proud sponsor of the new revised bill that will be carried by Assemblymember Ortiz. We owe a debt of gratitude to the families of the brave men and women who, in uniform, who have laid down their lives in service to our country. I believe that Gold Star families should not have to add worrying about how to pay for college to the heartbreak and struggles they have lived through. That is why I support this important piece of legislation, and I'll continue fighting for this legislation on behalf of the military families across the state. I'm proud to stand with my colleagues today to affirm that we all believe Gold Star families should receive this expansion so we can cover all families who are affected, even if they're not in combat, if they're involved in military operations, they should be covered, and I'm thankful that we can be here today to let you know that we are willing to do this. Thank you very much.
Thank you all, and just with the adjustment that we're making in this program, it's estimated that it will cover an additional 500 students across the state. As I said, the effective date of this bill will be April 1st of next year, so the needed funds will be included in next year's budget. If anyone has any questions, I'd be glad to answer them. I appreciate very much you all coming out today.
Is this in-state tuition? Like the students are...
Yes.
And again, will this just cover SUNY or will cover, I'm not sure what this is.
It is, pardon me. It is tuition for college. It is not it's not solely to SUNY. Any other questions? Okay, thank you all so very much.